ready to go. We have Josh Johnson, who is in the process of coming into work for his normal shift, and he's actually on the phone with us right now. Hey, Josh, we've been watching some rotation in South Covington County. This is right over the red level area. Moving pretty slow, though, so I've been telling people we have the luxury of some time, but they need to get in their tornado-safe place right now, especially if you live in the Dozier, Gant, Rawls, or Clearview area. This is right over red level and likely making its way east very slowly, but still a storm we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Amanda, it really is. This one is showing some stronger rotation than many of the storms that certainly the storm we tracked yesterday in Wilcox County. This one is a much more kind of noticeable and robust pocket of rotation. It's very close to red level right now. This is crossing, as you mentioned a moment ago, Alabama Highway 55. Right about now, that's a common beach cutaway. Many people that go to the Alabama or Florida beaches, rather, will use 55 as kind of they'll get off on I-65 there and drop south on 55 past Wingard Produce and head on down towards Andalusia and cut to the beach that way. If you live near Gant Lake or on Gant Lake, this is going to go right over Gant Lake. So this is, again, a possible tornado, not a confirmed tornado. We have not seen any evidence to this point of a tornado debris signature. Remotely, I actually have access to all of the radar tools. So I'm looking at through the correlation coefficient right now. We don't see much there that would cause us to think that there's a tornado on the ground, but the storm itself presents in a way where that's a storm that could potentially produce one. So Gant Lake to Gant to Dozier. If you live along Alabama 55, it's over you now. Then it's going to head on up towards US 29. So if you live anywhere from Heath to Gant to Dozier, on U.S. Highway 29 north of downtown Andalusia, you need to be in that tornado-safe place immediately. Now, if you live in downtown Andalusia, this specific storm likely stays a little north of you. It's a rough-sounding day in Andalusia. You can probably hear the thunder booming off in the distance to the north, but the core of that storm is going to miss you to the north and move more along that U.S. 29 corridor from Gant to Dozier. And we'll mention, too, southern Crenshaw County is included in this, specifically Dozier. Brantley, you are not in the tornado warning polygon. Neither is Luverne, Glenwood, Petrie, or Highland Homes. So most of the population centers in Crenshaw County, this is south of you, with the exclusion, the notable exception being the town of Dozier. That's very close to the Covington-Crenshaw line. You need to be in that tornado-safe place. So, again, Dozier, Gant, back to Heath, red level, the north end of River Falls, get in that tornado-safe place. When we say that phrase specific, it means lowest floor of your home, hallway, bathroom, or closet. Put as many walls between you and the outside as you possibly can. Now, if we can take Max 2, I can actually do a little bit of driving via Max 2. So we'll do that momentarily. Looks like that may have gone down. So that's what we're tracking right now is that tornado-warned storm, northern Covington, and the far southern tip of Crenshaw County. And, Amanda, you're in constant communication. The Weather Service in Mobile services both of these counties. What are you hearing from them?
As of right now, Josh, they're saying they're very much concerned about the storm that has been intensifying and doing so quickly. They're saying, as of right now, radar indicated, which, like Josh mentioned earlier, does not necessarily mean that we've seen confirmation of a tornado on the ground. What it means is there are some telltale signs that show that, yes, there is rotation happening over the red level area. Yes, it is moving slow off towards the east, closer to the Gant area. But besides that, like Josh said, there's nothing else that is screaming the fact that this is an absolute confirmed tornado. This is a storm, though, that is obviously capable of producing a tornado over the red level area. And again, moving rather slow. They issued a new update saying that now this cell drifting, I'll use the word drifting because it's going about 20 miles an hour off towards the east. And normally when we have systems like this, they're usually moving a whole lot quicker. So don't let that be a deterrent for you to say, okay, it's moving slow. I have plenty of time to get into my tornado safe place. This warning is in effect until 2:45. It is, as of right now, only 213, so that's another 30 minutes for it to go another dozen or so miles. So that does tell you that the storm is moving slowly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have the luxury of just sitting around and waiting. You need to go to your tornado safe place right now. If you live in the Gant or Dozier community, north of Heath, of River Falls, this area of rotation for sure. Now to the east of red level, I've circled it in blue to give you a better perspective of where that rotation actually is. When we look at velocity, that's telling us movement in the atmosphere compared to where the radar is. And when we have one singular color, that tells us that all of the wind or all of the movement is going either towards or away from the radar. When you get reds and greens and they're coming together, that means that there's some kind of spin or rotation and that all of the wind is not moving in the same location or the same direction. So that is one of the telltale signs that tells us that we need to be concerned about this storm because it's potentially producing some kind of rotation on the ground. This is right over 55 as we speak. It's north of River Falls right now. So where 84 and 55 come together, that intersection, probably just a couple miles off towards the north, is where that center of rotation would be. Now almost exclusively to the east of red level, the town center, but it's going to continue to push off towards the east and continue to make its way off close, I think, to the Dunn community over 29, Josh, where Gant and Dunn's come together with Rawls. I think that's where we could be watching this storm move off. But the National Weather Service hasn't said much since issuing that initial warning right before 2 o'clock, and that's why we've been covering it for the past 10 minutes. But honestly, hasn't moved much, and the cell definitely shows signs of intensification over the past 30 to 45 minutes. I'd say in the past couple of scans, I haven't seen anything that's jumping out saying this is really rapidly intensifying, but still one that's showing some kind of significant rotation now to the east of red level. And I think a lot of people in North Covington County need to make sure they're in their tornado safe places. This is a storm that is potentially, Josh, producing a tornado. No confirmation of that on the ground. We're going to continue to check all the different tools that we have here back at the station. But Josh, working diligently and having very similar tools that he's allowed to look at. What do you think is the most surprising for you, Josh? That we have an environment today and just kind of like yesterday that has really been conducive so far of some kind of spin in the atmosphere, or the fact that there's really no movement? This is kind of one of the slower storms I think I've ever seen in my 7 years at WSFA. This thing is not moving very fast as we speak.
I would say it's the latter of the two options you presented there. It's the slow movement. And meteorologically, I suppose it makes sense. The main jet dynamics, the main forcing are north of us. But gosh, you just normally, Amanda, and you know this, when you see a storm moving this slow, you don't have enough wind dynamics to spin up a tornado. So that to me would be kind of the surprising angle on this one, is that we have that present. And we use that phrase a lot, rogue storm. At least I know I do. I talk a lot about the overall risk level is low, but if we were to have some rogue storm form somewhere, we can't rule out a brief tornado. And the reason we use that phrase, quite frankly, is literally exactly for situations like this one, where most of these storms are behaving. Most of these storms are not producing tornadoes, but this one may very well be. So that's why it's critical that you take this seriously. Again, if you live there in northern Covington County and the far, far, far southern tip of Crenshaw, go ahead, get in that tornado safe place, lowest floor of your home, hallway, bathroom, or closet. And Amanda, if you grab the mouse over there on Mac 2, if you zoom in there into northern Covington County, our ConnectWise isn't allowing me to zoom in, but I can see the radar. I just can't zoom it in. But if you'll zoom it in there to northern Covington, we can do a little more storm analysis on this really oddball storm. This is not just a rogue storm. This is an oddball rogue storm because of its extremely slow forward movement. But that doesn't mean it's not producing a tornado. I can recall back to Gerald, Texas. Now, this is not a tornado of that intensity, but Gerald, Texas, there was actually a tornado that moved backwards at 2 miles per hour. Very intense tornado. It moved southwest at 2 miles per hour. So it can happen. It is rare meteorologically to have a tornado-producing storm that moves exceptionally slowly. So if you have a tornado with this, as mentioned, it's still pretty close to red level in River Falls. You still need to be in that safe spot, Gant to Dozier. You see there along U.S. Highway 29. That's the kind of corridor of concern there, would be that northern section of Covington County. You live in downtown Andalusia, this goes north of you. You live in Opp, Florala, Stanley, Red Oak, Pleasant Home. This goes north of you. This is not your storm. This storm is most concerning there, very close to Gant, Red Level, and River Falls. Kind of if you drew a triangle that connected Red Level, Gant, and River Falls, that triangle would be right in the smack in the middle of this thing. So that is our kind of chief area of concern is that storm there in northern Covington. And we'll point out, too, you're watching us in Troy, Greenville, Montgomery, Prattville. There are scattered showers and storms around. At this point, none of them are severe, none of them producing tornadoes. But these are storms that could produce some wind and hail later, and that's why the National Weather Service has that severe thunderstorm watch up. They do not have a tornado watch up anymore. They had one earlier. They replaced it with a severe thunderstorm watch. And while I have your attention, let's talk about this, too. The weather app has sent out duplicate alerts today. We are aware of the problem. It's not just our weather app. Most weather apps in the country use the IBM platform. The issue is on IBM's side, not ours. That said, we are the squeaky wheel, so we have already elevated our concerns to their upper management, and hopefully we'll have that thing fixed soon. We understand the frustration of it on your end. We've heard you loud and clear, and we will work diligently to get that fixed. So bear with us on that, and if IBM can't get it fixed, we'll do business with someone else. So tornado warning, northern Covington County. This would be north of downtown Andalusia, River Falls, Heath to Gant. Stay in that tornado-safe place, Amanda. And, Amanda, take us through the velocity on this storm. Right now we're looking at the standard radar. This would be like, say you hurt your ankle. You go to the doctor. The first thing the doctor does is gives you kind of a visual exam. He just looks at your ankle. That's what we're doing right now. When we look at velocity data, that is sort of like an X-ray into the storm. That allows us to see kind of some details and some nuance that we can't always see just by looking at it. So I'll toss back to Amanda, and she can dive into some of that velocity data and show us, Amanda, what you're seeing in terms of that. Again, that shows us the amount of kind of rotation in these storms.
Yeah, Josh, you're exactly right. So when you look at rotation, that's kind of the number one thing with storms, especially tornadic storms you look at, because unlike straight line damaging winds, these storms are rotating. And that's what you're able to pick up on radar when you look at velocity. So what is basically happening is when we get these reds and greens coming together, it's telling us that we have motion not only going towards the radar, but also away from the radar as well. So when you take that net combo of going towards and away, you're going to get some kind of spin in the atmosphere, and that's usually indicating some kind of rotation. So basically what we're watching right now is kind of waiting and seeing with every new scan that comes in, are we seeing this intensification broaden, which means it potentially could be getting weaker, or is it tightening up, which means the storm could be gaining some strength? The new information you're seeing now just flashed on your screen. I'll take this telestration away so you have a better idea of what we're watching, is the fact that we now have a reduced size polygon. So the National Weather Service office in Mobile is watching this storm just as well, and probably noticing the same thing that we're noticing, that this is definitely starting to broaden out a little bit, which doesn't necessarily mean, okay, it's done, you're good. We still have a tornado warning until 2:45, and we're going to be watching because storms do something we call cycling, which basically means that they can gain and lose momentum in their life cycle. So as of right now, yes, it does look like this storm has broadened out a little bit, which means that its rotation is not as well defined. It's a little bit messier, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that isn't a threat with this storm. It just means that now we're going to be watching to see, does it continue to broaden out and then maybe fizzle and lose its momentum, or does it then go into that cycle mode where it starts to tighten up again? This is going to be just to the west of Gant right now. Rawls, you're in this as well, but just want to let you know, if you're in the red level area, you've now officially been taken out of that tornado polygon. But again, this storm moving rather slow, and every new update that we get, every new scan with radar gives us an idea of what's going on. I will say, though, normally it's a race against time because these storms, we get a snapshot and they're racing off in one direction or the other. This storm isn't really moving much, so we do have the luxury of the fact that every new scan that comes in, it's really not changing its location too much, but definitely something that we need to keep an eye on. Thankfully, we have plenty of time to watch this storm as it's approaching Gant and Rawls. You've had at least 10 plus minutes to get in your tornado safe place, and you're under that tornado warning. Technically, Strawn, you are under that tornado warning, but I think that this is probably going to go just to the north of you Better safe than sorry, though. Get in that tornado safe place just in case, as you are included in that tornado polygon for a reason. So again, the area of rotation we would be watching is now to the east of red level. You are no longer in that tornado warning polygon, but I think it's a good idea for anybody who lives in North Covington County just to continue to remain weather aware. And don't forget, you can download that First Alert Weather app and watch what's going on inside of your app. But here would be that area of rotation that, again, is not as well defined and definitely, I wouldn't say is messy, but it's definitely showing signs of doing something we call broadening. So that means that rotation is not as tight, it's not as close together as it was earlier, which is something that we're definitely watching. But that tornado warning still continues for parts of northern Covington and extreme southern Crenshaw County. So that means, Dozier, down the road, if this held together, you're included in that. This is not an immediate threat in the sense that it's knocking on your door, but hey, more time, the better. You need to get in your tornado safe place if you live in Rose Hill. If you live in Dozier, get in your tornado safe place right now as we prepare for this system, because yes, it is moving on the slower end of the spectrum, but that just gives you the luxury of more time so you can get in your safe place and be ready to go. But as of right now, that area of rotation would be moving just over where Gant is. If you're familiar with US Route 29, that's exactly where it would be. A new scan just coming in. It's barely nudged off towards the east, but again, this rotation, I would say, is not as well defined and as tight as it was before. This is the area we'd be watching with the reds and the greens are coming together. That's significant because it would show you some kind of rotation or spin in the atmosphere. I definitely wouldn't say that this is screaming out that this is an intensifying storm, but it is one still that is capable of producing a tornado. There is no confirmation that there is one on the ground, but Duns, this would be coming right towards you. Gant, you're kind of in the line of fire as well. We'll continue to watch as that area of rotation is broadening out a little bit, but that doesn't necessarily mean the threat is completely over. We'll zoom in a little bit more just to give you a better idea of what we're watching and where this could potentially be. If you're anywhere in the Clearview area down the road, this could be an issue for you, so you need to be in your tornado safe place as well. I'd say that rotation right over the Gant Red Level Road area. So that's where obviously Red Level and Gant kind of come together. That's the connecting road. I'd say it's traveling almost perpendicular or right on top of that road and continuing to make its way closer to the Dunn and Gant community. We'll keep an eye on this for you guys as we continue to get more scans, but once again, we'll be getting some more information as new scans come in. This is definitely not the most well-defined area of rotation, and I definitely don't think it's the most conducive atmosphere, but like Josh said, we'll use words like isolated or rogue or very low-end threat. None of those things say our threat is 0%. What it does say is we're on the lower end of the spectrum. And while we don't think that rotation is going to be something that's an issue for everyone in the atmosphere today, it only takes one storm to rotate for it to be a rogue cell. Every other cell as of right now that we're tracking, yes, has the capabilities of producing strong, gusty, straight line winds. Nothing else has really been showing signs of rotation. So if you're watching anywhere else across central and south Alabama other than northern Covington County, know that everything is good as of right now. No other active tornado warnings. But what we do want to do while we wait for the new scan is I'll show you kind of a home view of radar. Here's what's going on. This storm right now, if no rotation was happening, it would still be packing a punch with heavy, heavy rain and a lot of lightning, some rumbles as well. So this is continuing almost completely parallel of 29. It's going to cross over sooner rather than later. So if you take 29 and go north of Andalusia, that goes through Gant, and then that would eventually lead you into southern Crenshaw County. We would be watching what's going on there. But overall, we can see that when we zoom out, that's not the only cell in town we're watching. There are other strong storms as well. And do forgive us, we are having a little bit of a problem with radar data coming in from the Montgomery radar site. But thankfully, this storm is closer to Fort Rucker and Mobile, so we are able to still get good radar data and show you what's going on. Want to show you actually what's going on in the current warning that we are tracking. There is a severe thunderstorm warning happening in parts of the Wiregrass that does include Enterprise, and that warning's been issued for gusty, straight line, potentially damaging wind. That office that covers them is the National Weather Service office in Tallahassee. So do know that we are under a severe thunderstorm watch for every single county across central and south Alabama. That is what we're going to be watching today. The storms that we see for the rest of the afternoon and evening are more likely than not going to be maybe gusty, straight line, damaging wind and hail producers, but we can't completely rule out the potential for that strong chance of maybe seeing a rogue storm, and this is exactly what's going on. If we can, back in the controller, I want to see if we can pull up our Andalusia tower camera. I'm looking at it in one of our boxes right now. A very ominous view right now. You just saw some flashes. That is likely going to be what you see across much of Covington County. But do know Andalusia, as we're looking off towards the north, this storm is not going to impact the Andalusia area. This is north of Andalusia as of right now, but still, we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled on northern Covington County, and then eventually down the road, if it holds together into southern portions of Crenshaw County, it's going to be pushing right over Gant probably as we speak right now, and we're going to be watching for sure to see what the National Weather Service office does with this warning. It's in effect until 2:45. That's for the Covington and Crenshaw County warning, but as of right now, it is only 2:30, and this system has not moved much. It's gone from about red level to Gant, so if you've ever traveled across parts of Covington County, I know Josh Johnson has done a lot of traveling in Covington County. He always tells me the best restaurants to go to and the best barbecue joints to go to when you're in Covington County. So if you do a little bit of an idea, that drive from red level to Gant, it's not a long drive. So this storm is not moving very fast, but it is still showing signs of potential rotation. So the National Weather Service office is letting that tornado warning continue across northern portions of Covington County. And Josh, as of right now, just by looking at radar and looking at that rotation, I don't see any major signs of this tightening up. As of right now, there still looks to be some broad rotation and some area of spin right over the Gant area. So I think a lot of people in North Covington County need to continue to stay in their safe place as of right now. But definitely an ominous looking view. I know you can see the same shot that I'm looking at right now in Andalusia. Want to let everybody know in Andalusia, though, that this is not an issue for you. This is off towards your north in North Covington County, but still an ominous looking day for sure, Josh, as we've seen storms fire on radar this afternoon.
Yeah, and Amanda, it's really just sort of been one after the other as far as the storms themselves. Now, this one's kind of gone rogue in that it is producing some rotation, but as you've done a good job mentioning, it's really not doing much from a tornado production perspective. Most of them haven't. This one is the oddball one. This one's that rogue storm that we're kind of concerned with right now. So I've got on Max 2 pulled up. We've got the Andalusia camera there. Earlier we had a fairly well-defined shelf cloud on that camera. That has since sort of faded out a little bit there, but you can still see some semblance of that there along the bottom of your screen. So, or along the bottom of the sky there, kind of in the middle part of your screen. That's what's left of that shelf cloud there. So I'm trying to flip back over and show you radar. Our ConnectWise control tool is not functioning. So, Amanda, if you're close to Max 2, if you pop up radar, we can go over that and talk a little more about that and give you an opportunity to rest your voice, and we'll pop back and forth here. We're on the air for a tornado-warned storm. This is a storm that is not moving very much, as Amanda has said. The warning polygon is sort of the same place that it's been. So we'll check out the correlation coefficient here, see if we see anything from a debris perspective. At this point, we don't. We're relying on the Fort Rucker radar right now. That's probably the closest one anyway. As Amanda mentioned, Maxwell is down, but for a storm this far south, we probably would use Fort Rucker anyway. Overall, Amanda's on the money. It's a storm that could it be producing a tornado? Yes. The rotation is maybe not quite as intense as it was 10, 15 minutes ago. When this was closer to red level, frankly, I think the rotation was a bit stronger. I would make the argument that that rotation is weakening a bit as it moves closer to U.S. Highway 29. Movement with this is east-northeast. I would say at around 10 or 15 miles an hour. It's not moving very quickly at all. Frankly, if you had the right horses in the right buggy, you could probably outrun this thing. Now, that's not a recommendation per se, but all that to say, it is a very slow-moving storm, kind of between Red Level and Gant. So if you live, there's Gant Red Level Road that kind of runs between those two Alabama communities. If we have a tornado in this, it's going to be past that and between Gant and Dozier now along U.S. Highway 29. So that would be, there's the community of Clearview. There's Gant Lake is right there. So this would be very close to Gant Lake if there's a tornado with this. I'm not sure there is, but I can't rule it out either. So as a course of least regret, the smart move for you, quite frankly, is to stay in your tornado safe place. So US 29, right where it runs along there, Gant Lake, right along Gant Lake, that's our area of concern. So there's Cypress Landing Marina would be kind of a landmark that's out of this general part of the world. Then this keeps going along 29, we think, up towards Dozier. So it's very close to Gant Lake and the marina right now. But as it continues to move off towards the northeast, it's eventually going to get closer to Dozier. If it continues to rotate, we'll keep tracking it. Now, the tornado warning here from the National Weather Service set to expire, I think, in about 11 minutes. They've issued the tornado warning out until 2:45 p.m. So we've got another 12 minutes or so before this thing winds down. This technically includes southern Crenshaw, the Polygon does, but I would point out it's really only for Dozier. If you live at Brantley, Glenwood, Luverne, Petrie, Fuller's Crossroads, Highland Home, this storm stays south of you. Now, there are others in the neighborhood. You may hear some thunder and some lightning in a few spots, but that's the one that we're on the air for. It's for a possible tornado between Gant and Dozier, very close to Gant Lake right now. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, the rotation with this, quite frankly, is not as strong as it was moments ago. But this isn't a bodybuilding competition. It doesn't have to be all that strong to produce a tornado. So we want you to continue to take it seriously, continue hanging out in that safe place if you live around Gant Lake over to Dozier. There's not a lot of you that are in this tornado warning polygon. Let's make that point, too. The major population centers in Covington County, Andalusia, Opp, Florala, you're not in this. This is north of you. So it's a relatively small piece of real estate, but if you live near Gant Lake, if you live along Dunn's Bridge Road, which takes you over Gant Lake and then south of it, you live, this would be pretty close to Strawn School Road, too. So if you live out there, Strawn School Road, Dunn's Bridge Road, you need to get in that tornado safe place and stay in it for just a bit longer. This is not one that's going to last forever, but another 10 minutes or so. Bear with us. Stay in that tornado safe spot out along Dunn's Bridge Road, Strawn School Road, US 29, Gant Lake, Cypress Marina. Stay in that tornado safe place. If you live anywhere near any of these landmarks that I've called out here in the last few minutes. Going into the correlation coefficient, still not seeing much there. That's a good sign. We don't want to see any type of debris signature, and thus far, we do not. Outside of the threat of a tornado in this, on the north side of this, in the core of the updraft, there's a ton of lightning in this thing. So that's going to hit Dozier pretty much head on. I think the tornado-producing part of this goes a little south of the center of Dozier. Now, some of you with Dozier addresses will be in the path, though. So if you live in Dozier, you're in the polygon, and you need to get in your safe spot. But you are going to get this barrage of thunder and lightning over the next 15 to 30 minutes as this thing moves painfully, slowly towards the east-northeast. Elsewhere in Alabama, active thunderstorms continue in Chilton, northern Dallas, northwestern Autauga counties. Heavy rain, thunder, lightning, and gusty wind in those storms. Perhaps some pea-sized hail in the most intense course. There's also heavy rain, thunder, and lightning affecting parts of Lee County, northern Macon County, and parts of Tallapoosa County as well. These storms, again, fairly scattered in nature. So this is not something where it's raining cats, dogs, and hippopotamuses on everyone. This is a hit or miss deal. But where it is raining, you're getting your money's worth. You'll notice the county's outlined in the beige color. That is a severe thunderstorm watch. Amanda now zooming us back in here, northern Covington, and as she did a great job assessing very early on in the lifespan of this storm, this is an exceptionally slow mover. Most storms we track when we're on the air this long for them, they've made some more progress. This one not doing that. We'll also point out severe thunderstorm warning for Coffee. Most of that storm is now in Dale County, but still Fort Rucker, probably some pea-sized hail on the base or on the fort pretty soon. So out of Fort Rucker, be ready for that. Elba getting hit hard with heavy rain, thunder, and lightning. We're on the air, though, for a possible tornado, which is passing very close to Gant right now. And then from there, we'll head on up towards Dozier. So this is very close to Dunn's Bridge Road would be kind of the main landmark here. That is Covington County Road 86, by the way, Dunn's Bridge Road that passes there over Gant Lake, very near the dam. So this will go right along Dunn's Bridge Road and right along Gant Lake, very close to it, and then head on up towards Dozier. So if you live anywhere near the Conecuh River, Gant Lake, Dunn's Bridge Road, Cypress Landing Marina, you need to get in that tornado safe place. Lowest floor of your home, hallway, bathroom, or closet. Get low or get gone. So that's what we tell people. In a tornado, it is critical that you get as low as you can possibly get. This is life or death stuff. So there is that tornado warning polygon. You see it there outlined in red. You have a tornado warned storm up here in northern Covington County. This is a storm that has taking its sweet time, moving towards the east-northeast. I would say at around 10 to 15 miles per hour. It is not in any specific hurry. Here's the Alpha Insurance Camera Network in Andalusia. We're looking back sort of into that storm. The camera here pointed more towards the northeast, and you can look there. We don't see much. There's a little bit of a base lowering, I suppose, there in the distant horizon, but as far away as this is, I doubt we're going to be able to see anything from a purely tornadic perspective. So that's sort of the lay of the land here with that whole thing that we're seeing right now. Just that. So I'll toss back over to meteorologist Amanda Curran. She is live in studio. I'm live remotely. We are doing tag team coverage of a tornado-warned storm there in northern Covington County. And Amanda, 6 minutes left in this tornado warning. What do you see?
Well, I just want to let you know, Josh, we've been talking with the National Weather Service office in Mobile, and they're seeing the same thing we are. Very broad rotation with that cell, so they're going to let the tornado warning in northern Covington County ride till 2:45, and then they have absolutely no plans of extending that tornado warning into further Crenshaw County. Do want to show you that Alpha Insurance Camera Network, a very ominous shot for sure in Andalusia, but like Josh made great mention of, this is probably too far away from our camera for us to see anything significant. But still, a storm earlier that was showing some pretty impressive rotation. We're going to watch this warning. It's got about 5 more minutes until it expires, but just with chatting with the National Weather Service office in Mobile, they're saying once they clipped red level out of the warning, they probably didn't need to reissue the new warning that was already kind of in place, the new trimmed warning. But they continued to watch it as that rotation started to broaden out a little bit, because they know just as well as us, just because a couple of scans show a storm starting to broaden out and maybe potentially weaken, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the potential to then tighten back up and maybe produce some stronger rotation. But very promising the fact that that rotation has started to broaden out and remain broad. So that means that there's really no signs of this storm continuing to rotate or have a tighter sense of rotation. Still, though, whole lot of lightning pushing its way closer to Dozier as we speak. So that's southern Crenshaw and northern Covington coming together. Lots of lightning with that system. But when we show you the scope, again, if anything, almost all of the green in the rotation is gone. So that means most of the winds are moving in a very similar direction. New scan coming in right now shows there could be some upper level rotation in the atmosphere, but there is nothing major in the form of spin on the lower levels of the ground that the radar is picking up on, that the National Weather Service office in Mobile thinks needs an extension of this warning. We're going to stay with you, though, for the next couple of minutes, continue to give you a better idea of what we are watching, but still, we've broken into coverage about 35-40 minutes ago to give you an update on a tornado warning that was issued by the National Weather Service office in Mobile. Do want to give you an idea if this is that broad area of rotation right over 29 right now, and we started over in red level. I can tell you it's not a very far drive from red level to Gant. Maybe 15 minutes if you're going slow. Maybe about 10, 12 miles at most, especially when you take that connector road between the two, which is pretty close to where that area of rotation was right on top of. So the system hasn't moved very much. We've talked about how that's a little bit unusual for storms, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't be producing rotation or couldn't be producing a tornado. At no point, though, was this ever ground truth information where we know for a fact that a tornado touched down on the ground. National Weather Service offices will go out afterwards if they get reports of damage and do surveying if that is necessary, but everything pointed to the fact that this could have some kind of rotation and point to some radar indicated factors that might suggest a tornado is on the ground. And that's why we broke into coverage for our friends in northern Covington County. Again, want to give you an update though, because we don't serve just northern Covington County. We serve all of central and south Alabama. Good news, it looks like the Maxwell radar site has come back online, which is very crucial because we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for all of central and south Alabama. So that means at any point today, the atmosphere for our entire viewing area could be conducive for strong and potentially severe storms. That means there's a lot of warm, muggy, juicy air in the atmosphere, building instability as a warm front has made its way north of our area, giving us the ingredients necessary. And fun thing that meteorologists like to do is sometimes go on social media and find interesting ways to explain science to you. When it comes to tornado watches or warnings, a watch tells us that all the ingredients are there. Sometimes people use the analogy of a cake. The most recent one that I've seen was kind of funny was a taco. It's like having the shells and the ground beef and having the chicken or having the lettuce and the cheese. It's not a taco put together, but you have all the ingredients necessary. And if a taco warning was issued, it means all of those ingredients have come together and you have what would be a taco. Because who doesn't like a good food reference, right? I've seen a baking reference as in cakes. You have the flour, you have the eggs, you have all the sugar, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all those ingredients have come together. When you get a warning though, that means all the ingredients have come together, and that is why a warning was issued in northern portions of Covington County. So 244, as we get ready for that warning to expire, we do have a cluster, though, of cells in far southern portions of the state that are packing a little bit of a punch. So we'll zoom back in to give you a better idea of what we're tracking. Overall, though, it looks like down into southern and eastern portions of the state, that's where the most lightning has been, the heaviest rain. We're also getting a few reports of a couple of trees down that are now coming into the National Weather Service office in Tallahassee, Florida. They are the office responsible for the 5 counties in the Wiregrass that we do cover and serve. So if you're in the New Brockton area, if you live closer to Enterprise, that cell is now almost exclusively out of your area, but now has made its way into the Dale County area. So there have been reports so far of some damage from gusty straight line winds. So obviously we're going to follow up on that. It looks like both of our warnings as of 2:45 have now been allowed to expire. So we officially have no more active tornado or severe thunderstorm warnings. So what we're going to do is send you back to regular programming. But don't forget, inside your First Alert Weather app, you will always have an updated look at the forecast. Josh Johnson will be live in studio at 4.